So, in your own experience, what you saw, and you described the notion of worthy and unworthy victims. You know, some people when they die, they are worthy victims, and people talk about them. Other people are unworthy, nobody talks about them. 1 million people killed. What was the quality of life you saw in Iraq of people?
I saw an orderly society. I saw a completely integrated society. And I met a culture of hospitable and kind of dryly humorous people. I could not walk into a shop without being offered tea and cookies. I visited a mosque, and with a few other human shields, and we were all invited home for dinner by the caretaker. Everywhere I went, I was welcomed as a person from the United States, and people were touched that I cared, that somebody from the United States cared about their lives enough to want to actually go and meet them. So I saw a society where they were reviving from the sanctions because they had become such an international scandal that other countries were breaching them. Were breaching those sanctions and were beginning to trade with Iraq, and so the society was recovering. And this administration and the previous one would not permit that. They would not permit Iraq to recover because, in my view, no country is allowed to be a self-reliant, independent economic entity. Some excuse or other is used to knock them down so that they're kind of brought into the neoliberal free market, really.
Network of dependencies.
Yeah, I mean, to me there's no question Iraq's got about $3 trillion worth of oil. So if the public has to pay for the war in borrowed money, it doesn't matter because the payoff is still going to these large corporations. And that's the kind of culture that we're seeing evolve. I guess to respond to what you're saying, my thought is, and I guess I think along with Gandhi on this one, no society can be controlled that doesn't cooperate.
Absolutely.
It cannot be. It cannot be. And when people stop cooperating, all of this breaks down. As terrifying as it is, it can't be enforced. I mean, government, the people doing the enforcing are paid next to nothing. They haven't got that much vested in carrying it out. It's these big show, example trials and accusations that are meant to make the rest of us self-police. But if we don't self-police, if we challenge all of these orders, they can't be enforced. So that's why I feel that this has been more of a blessing than anything else for me to have the opportunity to get to actually say that. I've experienced it. I was very frightened when it first happened. I'm not nearly as frightened now.
Ms. Karpova, since you have looked at this thing with such sensitivity and sense of commitment, where do you see a silver lining? Are there any signs of hope that you see on any horizon?
I can't see anything that I can definitely put my finger on. I just get a sense that we're being tested as a nation and we're being tried as to what our values are, and that we're in a period of really reflecting on what do we stand for, what do we believe in, how much are we willing to tolerate. And of course the fact that the most horrible aggressions are taking place against people that have been marginalized, have been really subjected to kind of racist marginalization, has given us like a little time to say, well, this doesn't really apply to me. But I think the whole issue of impunity, especially impunity with the economy, that you can do anything to anyone, you get bailed out, you get let off the hook, you don't have to prove anything, is making people feel more that it's one whole project of just complete exploitation. I see something hopeful in the candidacy of Barack Obama. I see something hopeful in the persistence of many attorneys and many civil liberties groups who come forward to defend people, even in my own area, I mean, people are out on vigil every day and every weekend. So the persistence with which people are digging their heels in is hopeful to me. And I suppose, in the end, I guess we all take ourselves as a barometer. I no longer feel kind of fear or despair, but I'm just going to do what I can do, and the consequences may not be within my control, but my actions are.
Excellent, excellent. How do you see the same thing? Any signs of hope on any horizon?
I think there are some signs of hope. I mean, the world is in a state of flux and transition right now.
Yeah.
And it's not just within the United States. We have a world basically on fire from North Africa all the way to Pakistan. And there is no way, looking at history, that monumental changes aren't going to come about from these events. And with global communications now, people can see that there are alternate ways of living, and that you don't have to have despotism, you don't have to have sham democracy either. So there is resistance all around the globe to modes of production that rely just on crass commercialism, and it is hopeful, but it's not something that's going to come easy. And we have a lot of clocks that we're racing against. We saw this week another section of the Antarctic iceberg, 7 times the size of Manhattan, dropped into the ocean. We have other climate controls that are kicking in against us, not to mention the wars and what happens when something spins out of control. But I am hopeful that people can come together and see our common humanity, and that's what we need to do.
Now, in terms of that common humanity, have you seen any signs with any presidential or congressional candidates that are providing some kind of a clear focus on restoring civil liberties?
I wish I could say I've seen a lot. I think from Barack Obama's past history as a legislator, there are hopeful signs that he would be a person that would stand up for civil liberties. But again, this isn't a topic that's getting a lot of attention in the debates or in any other forums at this point.
How about congressional level or city level? Do you see anything? Much discussion of that at the city council level in New York?
Not a tremendous amount that I'm seeing. We have communities around the country that have been involved in passing resolutions against the Patriot Act, passing resolutions against the war. We have some areas that are even passing resolutions or fighting against military recruitment in their cities. So there are hopeful signs, but the higher up the food chain of politics you go, the more and more silence you see on these issues.
Now, are there many civic organizations that approach you, being the fact that you are a civil rights attorney doing certain important work for background information, for explanation? What kind of resource have you become for community around you?
We get calls all day long from people, many individuals who are approached by, say, the FBI for some reason that has nothing to do, it seems, with a criminal case. We get calls from other organizations for guidance on handling various civil rights issues and criminal issues. But I have to say, it's in many ways an overload. There are so many lawyers doing this, there are so many organizations with finite resources, and there's also a huge information vacuum. A lot of people, I think, don't avail themselves to the organizations and resources that are out there because they simply don't know they exist.
All right. And Ms. Karpova, what kind of resource have you become to communities around you? What kind of people approach you and ask you for guidance or help or information?
I've been very, very beautifully supported by my community. Every time that my case has moved through the court system, there's been a lot of coverage, a lot of radio interviews, a lot of local television interviews. I've written a book on my time in Iraq, and I've been helped.
What's the title of the book?
The working title is Speaker of Stones. Okay. And I've been helped by my community to find agents and to give readings from it. We have a lot going on in my area, and it might be a cross-section of the country. We've had people who've sat in on my congressperson's in his office to demand that he impeach the president and vice president. We have people standing in the mall every weekend in front of the Army recruiters, and they've been brought to court by the mall for curtailing their business, and they're being threatened with $50,000 fines, and they're just digging in and getting civil rights attorneys and pressing forward. which I think is really what we need to do.